It's okay.
All right, we now will move on to the second portion of tonight's agenda. I'd like to say a couple of things first before we get to it as to why we're having this. This is a rehearing of a previously granted variance. And the causality of the rehearing at the moment, it has to do with when it was originally granted, Mr. Ferlito had an issue with, or code people did, an issue with the proximity of the entrance and the exit, and perhaps some of the access road to the nearby residences. When the meeting was held, there was a separate entrance and a separate exit, spaced some 300 approximately, correct me if I'm wrong, 300 feet apart. And the premise was that trucks would enter empty, I suppose empty, nobody takes fill to a mine, from one direction, most likely, and leave filled in another direction by a different entrance. Going through whatever discovery process that occurred, I had the flu at the time. It's my fault. I got sick. But anyway, during the discovery process, it was determined that the variance was past the criteria to be given, to be granted. The board approved it, and it moved on. Mr. Ferlito then went to the planning board. In the meantime, he has all this paperwork to go through. I'm sorry for taking up everybody's time. With the DEC, the DOT, every known agency probably on earth. In any event, evidently, a recommendation came down, or he made his own mind up, or something or other, so that there were no longer two entrance-exit points. There was only going to be one, and the other one was to be abandoned, which changed it gave some question as to the potential viability of some of the arguments that were made during the original discussion. So that's why the rehearing is being constituted. It seems like almost daily communication from on high, from various government agencies and individuals about stuff. And so the content of what the rehearing causality was originally may have changed, may not. What we'd like to do is hear from Mr. Ferlito as to what his actual current plan is, so that we can decide on what to do next. There's several things that we can do, and we'll get to him in a moment. We can determine that that there may be sufficient cause if he says he's going to go back to the original plan that it go forward. There may be some other conditions that have come up from somewhere that says maybe they ought to be revisited. It could be that the single point of entrance and exit is the best thing since sliced bread. It could be that it has issues. So what we want to do is find out what Mr. Ferlito has got to say, what his plan is, let the board figure out best we can where this is, and in the process we will tell you where at some point what we think the next step ought to be. I don't see this concluding tonight. I will tell you that. I don't know that we'll get to a vote tonight because of some things we just recently found out momentarily. So in any event, what I'd like to do is read the thing. We'll let Mr. Dates do this one. Could you read whatever the newspaper said? Do you have one of those?
You take it. And this one?
Well, I don't know. You got one?
This one.
Daryl's got it.
Daryl's got it.
Daryl's
Right
got it
there.
right in his hand.
He's got it in his hand.
Yeah, but this one's from April.
I got it right here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Legal notice, Town of Sterling. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of Town of Sterling will hold a rehearing on Thursday, September 24th, 2015 at 7 p.m. at the Sterling Town Hall, 1290 State Route 104A, Sterling, New York 13156, to review a decision granted to Christopher Ferlito of CJ Construction LLC. The decision granted relief of Sterling Land Use Regulation, Article 10, Section 5.J, subsection 2D, setback requirement for access roads and existing residences in connection to the proposed sand and gravel mining excavation operation on property located on 13181 Sanford, Road, Martville, New York, 13111, tax map number 20-00-1-68.01. All those wishing to be heard in favor of or in opposition of said application may appear in person or by other representation at said time and place. By orders of the planning board,
This was the,
submitted by Lisa Summers, clerk.
Yeah, it's now Mr. Polito's meeting. He can tell us all the things that, he's bringing, not Mrs. Polito.
No, she's a little bit more intelligent, more attractive.
God, is this one of those off shuffle moments, you know? And
Self-deprecating, that's 5 points in Mr. Ferlito's
Doesn't happen all the
favor.
time with lawyers, so.
Are you really a lawyer?
Yes, isn't it?
Okay. What do we got?
Like Mr. Lemon said, the only thing that changed was we eliminated this entrance road right here.
Right here, to a single entrance and
Correct.
exit here.
Yeah. And the reason why was because the initial first phase was right here.
Mm-hmm.
And to meet the DEC requirement for the noise from this house,
Mm-hmm.
the only way to do it, well, not the only way to do it, but the easiest solution that we came up with DEC was to eliminate this drive so that no traffic, will be directly across from her house. So everything comes in here, goes out here, and the noise is away from there. That was the best solution. And it only benefits. I mean, obviously, she's not gonna be able to see any traffic from here. It won't be directly across from her house. So I'm assuming that's the change that you're addressing.
I think that's
Yes, well, that-
referred to in the
yeah.
document.
I mean, my only option is, obviously, you guys denied the variance for here. So
I'm sorry, denied what?
my variance for the 1,000-foot,
Yes,
okay? So I could go back to the DEC and revert back to the old plan because now all my equipment's gonna be back here. So noise won't even be a concern at all because, obviously, so far back. I've already spoken to DEC. I wanted to pursue this first. Obviously, this would be the better option because it's already done. And it would be better for the neighbor across the street also. But, if I have to, then that's what I would do.
So you would have to go back to the original plan of 2?
Yeah, I mean, which doesn't make any sense, but if that's what I would have to do, it was already approved that way, that's what I would do.
So the variance you're asking for is a single point right now.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Okay.
the,
I
I
was
got
using
some-
the same road prior. This was the
Yeah.
trucks were gonna exit here.
Right.
Now they're gonna enter and exit.
Under an exit.
And honestly, every gravel bed I've ever been in, I bet 99% of them have one entrance and one exit.
So which one is this? Is this where the current entrance to the gravel pit is, or is it
No,
where the
it-
steel
no,
fence
The
is?
current one is right
Here,
here.
with
Yeah.
fences.
This one's gonna be all reclaimed.
The steel, where the steel gate is?
No, where the entrance is. The steel gate is this road right here.
The
Will be
lower
the new
one, the southernmost
The
one.
southern one, yeah. And again, the whole purpose of it was to get the traffic away from this house.
I have photographs of the entrance, would you like to see them?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
As she's getting those, question to you, Chris, is on this traffic in and out, all going south and coming from the south, or going both directions? Coming and going both directions?
On Sanford Road would be just to the south.
Everything to the
Yeah.
south, and whether they're coming or going?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Yep, just like it was before.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's no traffic going up further on Sanford?
Now and again, we did that just because there was more houses and the, you know, the angle of the road when it meets
So
104.
how far on Sanford Road to the mine entrance are you talking about? Do you have approximate ideas as
On
one
the
mile?
your town road or the whole road?
Whatever it is.
I think it's about a quarter mile.
I think it all belongs to
From
Cuomo.
104?
No, on Sanford down to Poplar Road. And then it's a touch more on Poplar Road to 38.
Yes, okay.
Right. Yeah, it probably isn't any more than a quarter mile.
It's not.
Sanford Road's like 6/10 of a mile. Poplar Road was .2 from to Route 38. That doesn't include that. 38, 104 to Sanford Road was .2. Okay, Route 104 to the North Drive looked like .3 miles, and then Route 104 to the South Drive. And I was just looking at where the gravel road is, kind of the
Yeah.
path going in.
Yeah.
And then there was the other one that I saw that had a steel gate, and that one was just .4 from 104.
That helps you, that's from the top of the line looking out that entrance is.
Okay, so is that the entrance that's proposed to be used for
Yes.
going in and going out?
Yes,
Okay, so that's the primary entrance that
That's where the
exists
gate
right
is.
now? No, there's no gate
I
there.
know, the primary, that one's gonna be abandoned.
right, this is the one.
Oh, this is the one that's gonna be
Yeah,
abandoned?
that's this one right here. This one's gonna be
Okay.
reclaimed,
The northernmost one.
the northernmost, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that goes into the gravel pit right now.
Right now, correct, yeah.
So you're effectively taking the density of the traffic that we were trying to avoid and moving it, making it more dense, 300 feet down the road
Yeah.
towards the neighbor. That's what it would be.
Away from, I mean, the only,
Here.
yeah.
Wait,
Well,
you just
Right
went
here.
there.
This is a,
And
this
so
is
It's
an
gonna go
old-
in and out, like that south road, that's all.
This one isn't right, because it doesn't show the, all the areas.
You moved
1,000 feet.
it away from the neighbor, right?
Correct.
This
Correct.
one's gone.
For the north.
This one's gone.
So there's, just
Right.
to clarify, there's no visualization for this.
There's,
neighborhood.
this one is marked up with 1,000-foot contour mark.
Not right now, but I'm sure once
No.
the leaves come off the trees.
So
There'll be,
he's using this one and not this one. I was under the impression that he was gonna use this
No.
for both in and out, and then this was
No,
gonna
this
be
one,
abandoned.
the reason they abandoned this was because the DEC's noise analysis stuff said there's gonna be too noisy there. And he has to attempt to mitigate it. That's not a denial by the DEC, by the way, that's just like,
what's that now?
they can't,
noise.
they
No,
can't deny
that's-
you because of the noise.
They
That's
issued
a
a negative declaration, but
I
they put a
understand.
contingency in there stating I had to come up with a solution to
Right.
meet the noise requirement.
Or,
And after talking with them,
or
that's
miti-
what they suggested, that's what I agreed
I
to.
think the law says, or mitigate as best you can.
Gotcha.
But anyway,
It's all the same.
that's begging the point. It also, it's the exit, besides being in proximity, the law that applies to this. Anybody have that section D to, whatever it
In
is?
the town hall?
Yes. It says the access road at all points has to be 1,000 feet from the residence. It's not just the entrance or the exit itself, it says, and I didn't know where the access road actually is other than this thingy. And it may not, I don't know whether you can even determine. where
I mean, this is the same location as this hasn't changed.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that that's what it says. Right. In terms of completeness, do you know where the access roads are internal to your property that you're going to mine?
What do you mean?
Well, you have, this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You're gonna take a bulldozer and plow some kind of pathway to get trucks in and out, or whatever it is, storage areas and this and that and the other. Do you have any idea where those are? Yep.
Well, my first phase is back here,
Yeah, I understand
and
that.
it's, here's what they say, the plant location.
Right.
But this is all approved, this is the whole life of mine. So
Yeah.
I can use anything in here, for what I gotta do to get back to here.
I understand. So there is no such thing as an access road internal to the area you're going to mine?
No,
Okay.
no.
That's what I'm after, is what constitutes an access road. So the only access road then is whatever the entranceway is. you have.
Which is part of the life of mine. This is included in there.
Okay, all right, so, in addition to, is just for completeness, one of the issues that we have is, or that we had, whatever way you want to do it, is the proximity of the access road to the dwellings. I just want to make that clear. It's not just the entrance point, or whatever, am I not making any sense?
Not really, because you already approved this road prior for trucks exiting, so
I
whether
understand.
trucks exiting or
Well,
entering, it still needs to be aware.
is back down to now that you have everything going through the same point. And one of the justifications that was part of the original discussion that we had, or you had, was that you were separating them in order to provide for additional safety and this and this and the other. And so one of the questions comes down to, are we doing something more dangerous now, or more different in some way than what you had before? The reason, part of this all brings up some newer stuff that's come along since the variance was approved. Namely, we got, which was something that I didn't know and some other people didn't know on the board, was a letter from the DOT on September 9th, which stated that they would like to see a traffic.
Gap analysis, right, it was a suggestion by DOT. to the
Right.
town.
Is what we have here, and just for the general audience, I'm not babbling just to be meaningless, I hope not. Somebody talk. Yeah, right, what we've got is proximity of dwellings, residences to within the 1,000-foot numeric, okay, that all have entrances and exits off of the roadway. And the variance that we granted and our total jurisdiction applies only to that, not to the road at all, not to the stop signs 3 miles down the road, not to stones falling off somewhere else, but only for the dwellings within the 1,000 feet. And one of the what we got out of the request was something that I think is important, that we didn't do or consider perhaps, is a safety analysis of the properties. And I think that, and this is, I wasn't, some other people weren't aware of this until just prior to the meeting when we discovered that there was this letter. We can talk about it as miscommunication between parties within the town, or miscommunication that we weren't on the list, or whatever it is. But I think it would behoove us to do that study. What we've got is people backing out or driving onto the road. The current, I'm assuming, speed limit is 55 miles an hour on that road. I'm not asking for acknowledgement, but I think that's the case. Do these vehicles, that whether they're yours or Kelly's or somebody's, do they have Jake brakes? If somebody backs out of a driveway and they're coming in at 55 miles an hour, how do we prevent accidents? How do we do it? Regulate it out? This isn't all your problem, but it is a problem. It is a potential issue. And what we'd like to do is find out what there is that can be done about it. One of the things that somebody mentioned was lower the speed limit.
We've already written a letter.
I know.
It's in the works. Right
Okay,
now, it's in the
and-
DOT for the.
And, you know, you could put speed bumps on, but you don't want to do that with heavy vehicles. I mean, that's, you know, they could break accidents, right? So,
what
at any
I-
rate,
what-
it's my opinion, and nobody else's, because I haven't talked much about this stuff.
But one of the things then, Larry, I mean, the reference that was made, and I'm sorry, your name.
My name is Kimberly.
When you, and you're aware of the letter that, and we have just been made aware of the letter too.
I can address this if you would like.
I'm
I
sorry.
can address this if you would.
Okay, well, let me, for the audience's sake, be able to share, you know, the, from the DOT, you know, the information that, I'm paraphrasing out of this particular letter dated September 9th to Lisa that came for the planning board, planning and zoning board of appeals clerk, as she is. DOT also recommends heavy-duty shoulders be constructed on the northbound and southbound sides of New York State 38 at that intersection. Also, at the New York State 38-104 intersection, DOT suggests an accident analysis be performed, site distances documented, and a gap analysis, as you referred to, be performed for vehicles turning eastbound and westbound onto 104. In addition to, it may be appropriate to construct heavy-duty shoulders on 104. We believe it is in the best interest of the town of Sterling to consider having the applicant perform the above-mentioned analysis as indicated in previous correspondence. I think that's what you're referring to, and maybe you want to then address.
Right, that's what we refer to as a gap analysis. This actually came about last Monday in the planning board, which in my opinion, I'm sure Mr. Cox could elaborate for you too if you had any questions, is where this is more appropriate. As you were saying, sir, you know, this board here's the property and the issues surrounding the property. What DOT is suggesting, it's a suggestion, is Route 38 and 104, not a gap analysis and traffic study of the property that's before you today as part of a ZBA issue. But with respect to a gap analysis, if you're not familiar with gap analysis, what it is like someone stands inside a road with a ticker and calculates the spaces between vehicles, just to make sure there's adequate timing for ingress and egress of traffic. Again, this is with respect to 38 and 104, not within the CBA property that we're looking at here today. But Mr. Ferlito is very willing to work with the town in terms of obtaining a gap analysis traffic study as per DOT recommendations, if that's so desired. But again, I think that's more appropriate for a planning board than it is for CBA for here tonight.
Well, I think part of it is the safety issue that has been thrown into a little bit of a question mark right now. So there is a safety issue that has to be evaluated on Sanford Road.
Yeah, the ZBA's, we're an appellate body, we're not a legislative body. But once an appeal is made for something, we can consider any and all aspects associated with it within the narrow confines of what the request is. And it does bear on noise associated with it to the individuals. It does relate to safety. It does relate to lots of different things. It's not a death sentence. It's not an anything. However, the proper place for solutions may be the county or the town or some other thing. And it may have to go through the planning board. But we get to make that decision as to whether or not it changes the character of the neighborhood.
If I may also add too, with the one ingress and egress to this property, we're not asking for an uptick on commercial traffic. All else stays the same. As Mr. Ferlito opened with this evening, this was done for the benefit of the neighborhood, especially that one particular neighbor.
Okay.
I mean, I cannot, like I said, I can go back to DEC, and maybe that's the best option. That might be quicker.
I think
Delayed. I mean,
that may be something you want to do. I don't know. I mean, I can't.
Direct you, but.
Yeah, but I think you're going to need to do this anyway, whether it's us or the planning board.
gonna need to do what?
A traffic analysis.
No, I understand that.
The
but I'm
letter-
asking for the variance, not a traffic gap analysis. You can tell me I need to do that.
Well, the letter suggests that, and it does, it talks about 104 and 38, which is different than this, but this entire operation depends on 104 and 38.
Correct.
And so that's why it raises, I think, you know, a bit of a level of concern when he's dependent on those two roads.
But that should be planning board though.
But that should be planning board. So I understand what you're saying, but it does give us a level of notice of concern.
And just, and I'm not sure if you even see the DEC permit that was issued about 2 weeks ago.
I have it here.
Okay, there were several paragraphs, and I have them marked here if you want me to flush them out for you. The one was on page 8. They didn't see any DOT issues, so just in case you think in the back of your mind, this is additional.
I don't think that's what we're saying. I think we're saying is if it's important enough to look at Route 38, Route 104, it's certainly important to look at Sanford Road. And as far as the location of the egress and ingress for the location, now you're talking 2 trucks passing in a driveway, so the driveway's a lot wider, right? You could potentially have a truck leaving while a truck's coming in. That's very different from what we had talked about when we issued the variance.
I think, not talking too much. Somebody else.
You had a letter you wanted to refer to that we have not seen, you said, you just mentioned.
Oh, the DEC.
I think it's, I have, a whole-
DEC permit.
yeah, I don't know if the board has
Yeah,
received the September 8th response to public comments from the DEC, and then the permit that was granted, Mr. Ferlito. If you haven't, I have copies here.
Yeah,
Or I have my copy you can look at. And the DEC does address the issue on page 8 and of traffic and actually noise. So you can review that and see what they said.
Sorry?
This one.
They were emailed.
Oh, there are lots of
I've
stuff.
been getting these emails, but every time I open them up, they're like little boxes.
This were the ones from this weekend, Jeffrey.
Which is basically what
This one will come
Pretty much, yeah.
after
What does it say? I mean, you could read out loud and read all of it. I don't have it.
Relates to this variance, you know.
These are the first level the DOT sent, and then they sent.
So much time. My phone will blow up. Everything that this is, I don't care about it, whatever, I'm interested.
You're gonna get that, eventually we're gonna get that. So, you know.
When the guy comes down 55 minutes.
That's the other thing, how the neutral lines are. Yeah. I know
Does it
you-
change the character?
What about the conversation with Chief?
So what you guys have to decide is that relates to this variance.
Kind of corrections.
Yes.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Or the first one they said,
Now, I can see maybe slight distances.
and I need to rebuild the road, so I gotta implement.
You know, that's maybe different than before, whereas before they were pulling out, even on the other driveway or coming in.
This is the first one?
Top and leaving the ball, yeah. So now it's a different traffic, you know, I think in that respect,
So they want to do.
I would agree with the scale that the majority of what they're talking about seems to relate to the roads.
What is this?
So the driveway,
So if you need to, well,
the driveway's dependent on the road. It doesn't stand alone, so there is a
I think
connectedness.
that what they're suggesting.
You know, even though it needs to go back to the planning board.
Something other than.
Oh, yeah.
The driveway depends on the road.
if it causes sufficient hardship on the neighbors, becomes something wrong. So there needs to be remediated or something. I don't know what it is. And Mr. Ferlito's a pretty bright guy. He'll come up with some way to solve it if he has to. I just don't know what it's going to say.
Right.
I know you said that you've written a letter about perhaps adjusting the speed limit on Sanford Road.
I went on the town supervisor.
Which town?
The highway supervisor.
Your, ours, as opposed to the town of Victory or one of those other towns.
Our brain trust.
Right, our brain trust, right, right. But we don't know what else is, these are things that I think we need some they aren't life and death decisions, but we do need to have some inkling as to what's actually going to be the outcome of it, I think. You know,
So let me ask you this, I mean, who's to stop me from running 200 trucks on that road right now?
on the road, not me.
Nobody. I mean, the road's not posted.
I understand
I
that.
can't
I
run
know
104, I
that. I
can't
know
run
it.
38 without rebuilding the shoulders.
I know, it, but if we were, not to be facetious, but if we were to determine that that would be hazardous and not in the best interest of the neighborhood that's adjoining your mine, you wouldn't have an interest to go into it. That's the bottom line. So we need to find a way to solve this. It's
Why
not a
didn't-
hard
Why didn't you
thing.
take that into consideration when you first came, when you awarded me the variance? Why wasn't all these issues brought up then, at that point?
Fair
You
question.
knew trucks were gonna come in and out.
Yep.
But now it's an issue. I don't understand. It's only bettering the neighbor. I mean, nothing else.
Well, that's
Chris,
a guy.
you're right. You've addressed that point. This takes care of that issue. But since we last met, there's been some, the September 8, September 9 letter, DOT. There's suggestions that are provided that should have some level of awareness and
But his
some
words a minute
consciousness.
ago, when he spoke, he said, you guys are here for the variance for 1,000 foot, not for
Yeah.
study on Route 38 and 104.
I don't care
So you're
about the study. I
contradicting
didn't say anything about the study of 38 and 104. The point is, the letter raised an issue, which is, a traffic gap analysis, and there may be
yourself.
some.
438 and 104.
Yes, that's all
not
okay.
Sanford Road.
I understand. However, it's an introduction of a thought process that we didn't do.
So it's a proverbial second bite of the apple then?
Now you're gonna back.
No, it's not arbitrary and capricious. I'm sorry. It isn't.
Gambling.
Well,
Okay.
help me.
I-
Is there a level of connection between your driveway and this request for this variance? Is there a level of practical need and connection between that and 38?
Yes, and it existed at the time you
Not,
issued the variance.
honestly, no, there's not, because I can turn right onto your road.
All right,
The only reason
then
why
I'll finish at 38 or 104.
Same set of facts that occurred and were in place when the first variance was approved.
That's true. But now we've also been enlightened with some other levels of concern, haven't we?
Not either. That's not our
With
purview.
respect to,
With the
38
DOT,
and
we
104.
just say
that right
Again,
now.
I think more appropriate for the planning board than for.
Yeah.
That's what I agree with you. I agree.
We don't have any jurisdiction over
Yeah.
38.
So why
and
delay
104.
this? Can we vote on this? That's all we're asking for.
What are you asking for?
I guess for
For
the
this.
variance, for what I'm here, just for a vote so I can go on to the planning board and keep moving forward, is all. I mean, if you don't vote on it tonight, then I gotta come back to zoning, and then I gotta go back to planning. So if it's not an issue with ZBA, then why can't we vote tonight?
My issue has nothing to do with 38 and 104. My issue has to do with neighbors and the thought process that came up and said, you probably need to do something. And we may go through a lot of mea culpas that maybe we didn't do. Okay, that's a fault we have. What I'm asking for is I don't think it's real hard. You've already started the process. You've already said, I'm going to request that you reduce the speed. What we need is some kind of a study or an examination of what the issues are relating to transportation issues, safety. I don't know about noise, but there may be jake brake kinds of things for the nearest neighbors that are within 1,000 feet.
But you're
And
all
if
on
it didn't
speculations.
happen,
How do you do a study when you're speculating how many trucks?
I don't know that. I don't know that it's a question of how many trucks, it's a question of trucks.
But how do you reverse what has already been accomplished? The variance was
Because we
already,
didn't change the
The law,
scope of your project.
right.
it's just ingress and egress. I think that
No, it's not.
blow off this entire project where now you can say, okay, let's start down the window and start from scratch.
No, I don't think so. We're not asking for that.
So you've addressed this, you've come with a solution, like you said, going to a single. If nothing,
Yeah.
if that nothing, you want to maintain that. If we don't approve or deny, but we table and allow you to go through those others. And you say this is more appropriate, those other concerns for the planning board, let it go back to there and exhaust those issues. And all we've done is table, and we can be tabled for a certain period of time to then come back to it. And even in a table, I mean, it can just be a meeting action.
And I think I'm better off just going back to DEC at this point and reverting back to the 2 entrances, honestly. I mean, it's just time, that's all. That's all. I've lost a lot of time already, so.
And the other thing that I will add to it too, from the paperwork point of view, is without this variance, one way or another, we already have one variance approved, so here we are tonight on something different. Without something set, it's very hard to say to any expert, prepare a report. Because the first thing I'm gonna say is, okay, what's the variance say? I don't know. So that's why I'm saying more appropriate for planning. Because then when CPA says this is what your true variance is, it makes it easier for an expert to do a study. Because it's one of those things they're gonna have to know as a fact. What CBA say, like, where's the variance? Show me in writing. Otherwise, we're gonna be running around chasing our tails trying to think of every possible scenario that both ZBA and planning board wants. Now we're dealing with 2 boards, 2 sets of people, 2 sets of wants and needs.
You know, what I'm trying to suggest is, of just, putting it on hold and not change what you presented here, but just putting it on hold to the point of time where those other things are reviewed and exhausted.
Then something else will come up later. It's been like that for a while. Something else will come up.
It's a learning process for everybody.
It'd be wonderful if both boards could speak to each other and come up with one thing, one list.
Well,
So we're not going back and forth, and here's something else, here's something new, here's something else. Because this is just delaying and delaying and delaying. There's time and money involved here.
Yeah, in fairness to the applicant, I mean, it has been going on for quite some time, so we do have to eventually make a decision. If there's other information that we want to consider, then we need to make clear what that is. And I think put some kind of a timetable on it. When does the planning board meet next week?
First Monday.
October 5th.
I know the planning board had discussed last Monday a possible workshop. Perhaps, and it's just strictly a recommendation you do if you would like, but perhaps both boards can sit together and work together to make this an easier, streamlined process for the applicant.
Maybe. The planning board has responsibility for a bigger role than we do.
Right, but it seems to be a little bit of overlapping as of tonight now, especially with this gap analysis and traffic studies.
I'm not interested in 104 and 38. I think it's outside our jurisdiction. I think our only jurisdiction is the residences within 1,000 feet. That's what the law says. That's all we're concerned with, which is what are the issues with the residents that live there.
But there's been no new residents since you approved the last one.
I understand, and we're having this rehearing in order to find out what. It is a rehearing, and what we need to do is to find out what your rationale is for having granted the variance. If you're not going to execute the first one, we have to do something with the old one, like annul it or something, or amend it or modify it, because we can't leave it as originally intended, which was 2 entrances. You will not be allowed to have 2 if you're only going to do 1. This is not like somebody wants to build a shed and then never does it. It lasts forever with the land. Okay. so I need to know what you're gonna do. And,
Well, I didn't ask to come here, you guys respect.
I understand that it's a rehearing, that means, you know, you can tell us all the things you told us before or whatever. And then we'll decide, you know, whatever to do, or we'll take it or something.
So if Mr. Ferlito goes back to what was originally approved, that's it, CBA, right, we're done?
No, his portion of this meeting is over now. And we'll open it up to the audience and then we'll decide what to do.
With respect to the original variance
Yeah.
that was approved,
Uh-huh.
if Mr. Ferlito goes back to that,
I'm sorry, this is a rehearing. A rehearing means I can do, I'm sorry, I'm not a dictator. I'm not. We can do lots of things, and what we want to do is to be, I'd like to see Mr. Ferlito succeed. I'd like to see the neighbors satisfied in what they do too, and there's probably a way to do it. However, we may not be there, here we are.
I'm just trying to get a little
Yeah.
clarification here. We have an approved variance.
Uh-huh.
We go back to that approved variance.
Right now, your approved variance is going through a rehearing.
Yeah,
That's where you are.
I think the board's position is that they unanimously voted to have a rehearing of the original variance.
So we get to have the rehearing.
So, just so the board is clear, that if the board decides to reverse, annul, or modify that original variance that was granted, it's gonna have to do it unanimously.
And we'll have to have some justification stand up
And it's-
through a court. We know that.
In addition, the board's gonna have to consider that they gotta consider what prejudice
Right.
Mr. Ferlito
Right.
would suffer by reversing course on what's already been done.
He's already suffered. I'll be honest with you.
We understand that. I don't know if we've gotten whatever we need in a rehearing.
I guess, is anybody clear what was wanted or needed? I mean,
A
it seems to
rehearing,
be all over the place. So
Well, it could
let's
be.
try to get everybody to focus. And what specifically are you looking for besides this
what would,
gap?
I mean,
traffic?
what would who's speaking for Mr. Ferlito?
Mr. Ferlito speaking with respect to the project.
Okay. What would you do if this was the first time you showed up here and you wanted to have a hearing? And what would you discuss? What would you say that would try and persuade us to grant this variance? That's what we're asking for. That's what a rehearing does. We want to hear all of that. Maybe we can hear everything that we want to know, so we can just, sorry for the waste of your time. Maybe it's something else. But that's a rehearing. It's not a sit here to discuss the merits of something else. We think there is sufficient cause to find out whether or not what he thinks he may be doing now will pass the muster of what he said before that would have passed. If he's going to go back to that, he needs to what was before. He needs to be able to justify it again to what maybe we've learned things in between. I don't know.
The only thing that's changed is my entrance, so I don't know what more I can say other than what I already said. Honestly, I mean, I told you why I changed it. Because of the noise issue. And I agree with that. I mean, it only made sense for the neighbor across the street. I'm not trying to fight with anybody or have problems on the road or.
Good. We don't want to either. We don't want to. If you can't say anymore, we can end your portion of this, and then we can, unless you got more things that, it seems like we're confusing you instead of,
Well, I'm confused.
oh, thank you.
Yeah. So the DEC came through and said, for noise issues, go 300 feet down the road.
No, we did a study on the whole property, different locations. And we take all your equipment and trucks on the road, and you have to meet a certain decibel level. We had to measure the distance of the house from the property. In that one specific house, we couldn't meet with, can I point on your map here? With our first plant you know, we were gonna start screening right here, because that's where it's already been mined out. Okay, this whole hill's already been taken out. So we were just gonna start right here, okay? Now with all of our equipment right here, and with trucks pulling out, we were like 2 decibels shy of meeting right here. So they said you have to, like he said, you have to mitigate it, come up with a solution, whether you build berms to get that 2 decibels, you know, or whatever. They pretty much left it on me to come up with a solution.
So the noise is emanating from the actual digging of the earth or shaking of a grid or whatever?
And trucks, they take everything into
The
consideration.
trucks are going by the house.
But the truck's coming out of the entrance, the truck's right, you know, the truck's running inside my property,
But the
just
closest
pulling
truck-
out.
But why wouldn't the trucks on the road be noisier than the truck?
They take that into consideration, they use that as natural noise, whatever the traffic is. And they come out and they study what the noise is at a specific time, and that's what they use in relative to that.
I think, Rich, if you haven't read this already, there's the DEC response to the public comments.
Yeah.
They address the noise levels and impacts, starting on page 9 and 16.
I used to be at a acoustician, I used to do that kind of work.
I,
Did the trucks have Jake brakes?
Yes.
yes, yeah, this is just right after the traffic, they address the noise, I think you looked at that.
Do you see on page 10 when they speak of decibels? So what they're saying is that right now, the EPA standards are not to exceed 55 decibels, and Christopher's coming in at 53, which is 2 decibels less than the EPA regulations.
Sitting there. Anyway, if you have no more, I don't know
Okay.
what else we can add. We can let the.
Yeah,
He said he was confused.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I say I'm confused, I mean I'm confused. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it was just a practical question, I would think, that if you're being.
This is all practical, I think.
No, but no, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying that you're being challenged on noise issues within your property line.
I don't see anybody
And
here.
They
from the
actually take
school
into
district
consideration
representing
driving
them,
cars,
because there was an issue
trucks
with
going down the road,
bus
but
traffic.
Right down to.
I'm the only one.
idling,
They've been
Jake
giving
brakes.
information,
And I don't know if I can do 2 jobs at the same time right now.
but they were giving notice.
when his truck's starting out or louder than trucks.
The letter was sent, yeah, Shaw said something about it, but at the
Okay.
time, everything had gotten tabled.
Who's the director of
Yeah,
transportation?
part of me would
Yes,
like to
Colonel.
see the initial
He
variance.
would, wouldn't he?
Either modified somehow to, because when we did it, when we awarded it, it was based on 2 entrances. So I don't know if how you change those, right?
If, my opinion, and the attorney can tell me if I'm wrong or make an opinion, if in this whole process, we decide that Mr. Ferlito's single entrance exit thingy is the greatest thing since sliced bread, we have to either annul the first one and then approve the new one. You can't have 2 variances for the same thing. So, it's, whatever it is, I think it's not in your best interest to kill the first one with the 2 entrances without having anything to fall back on, like going back to that, a single entrance. You see what I mean?
Now you confused me because a minute ago you said we're here doing a rehearing and now.
We are here doing a rehearing. So in the process of this, we'll talk about something and we'll all say what you really need is 5 entrances. I don't know what it is. It's some ridiculous thing. All right, given that point, we need to do something with the first variance before we can approve the second, the new one. Does that make sense? I can't have 2.
Yeah.
He tells us.
It can't be a blanket variance.
I think for purposes of this variance, I think the board ought to consider, look back and review what evidence was presented at the April hearing. and then make a determination as to how this change from 2 to 1 affects that, if it does at all. And I think that's what the decision should be based on.
Right. That's why we ask, you know, if you told us all the things that you told us before, does it apply to this the same way that it did before? Part of the argument that you had before was it improves safety, it does light it in and out because you have 2 separate entrances. You know, you're gonna have twice as much
I
traffic
honestly
in it.
don't think that's a safety issue. It was more of a convenience.
I don't know, that's what you
Should I
said.
read a portion of our minutes?
Like you said.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to see where I can get something relevant.
This from,
This is from the April 27th, 2015 meeting. Okay. C.J. Ferlito and his attorney, John Klusick, wherever he is, approached the board and stated that he has been before the planning board for special use permit approval and was referred to the ZBA during the project review because of a non-compliance issue regarding the minimum distance required between the entrance of the mine and the surrounding residential structures. He has also been working with the DEC to obtain a mining permit and process the state seeker EAF review, which is nearing an end. A draft negative declaration was provided. He has also been working with the highway supervisor, Brian Soper, to complete the highway preservation paperwork for the town. Some design elements changed after talking with Mr. Soper, like curving the egress drive to assist loaded trucks with the 90-degree turn onto Sanford Road, and a plan for all trucks to head south to access both 38 and 104. Mr. Ferlito stated that he had spoken to many of the neighbors to explain his business plan, especially the closest, like the Allingers, Welsh, and Seymour families, and that they seemed positive and that hours would be established and reclamation efforts would be mandated. A large surveyed vicinity map was provided for the members to identify the properties closer than the 1,000 feet with exact distances for each structure to each driveway of the mine. Member Palmieri asked why a second driveway had been designed. The applicant explained that traveling from the north down Sanford Road is a long hill which could be problematic for trucks to pull out. Therefore, the thought was a north ingress and a south egress 300 feet apart to ease traffic flow and provide safety. A member asked if signs were going to be posted at the mine to direct the trucks. The applicant stated that he would place a no right-hand turn sign on the property, but the roadway would need to be handled by the town. The highway supervisor commented that the town would add signs if needed. A member asked about the usage history of the existing mine, to which Mr. Ferlito stated that he had purchased the property from Steve Keeling and was told that they had been removing small loads for over 60 years. The aerial photo supports this claim and shows a visibly scarred area. Board members reviewed the map provided and found that the 4 closest properties were within 600 feet and only the Allingers were present at the hearing. Member Dates asked about the numbers, how many trucks, and how much product is going to be moved. The applicant replied he has 6 trucks of his own, 4 10-wheel dump trucks and 2 tractor-trailer haulers, but deliveries are not limited to his own vehicles. Others will be entering the mine pursuant to business contracts. Mr. Ferlito stated that he has 2 bids out currently for the Sterling Waterline job and for the Onondaga Lake project. Hauling long distances increases bid prices, so he hopes to work locally. Member Itzen asked if there was any other layout of the business that would result in better compliance for the mine entrance. Even though the property is 82 acres, it has neighbors around the perimeter, and purchasing additional property doesn't change the issue. It only involves different structures. Acting Chair Utes asked the highway supervisor about the condition of Sanford Road and its ability to handle this kind of truck traffic. Brian Soper answered that the road had recently been rebuilt and can handle the loads. Sanford Road had been on schedule with many other roads in the town for repairs and rebuilds, which was determined before the project was proposed. At this time, Acting Chairman Hughes asked if any audience members had any comments or concerns. Resident Tom Blanchard, who resides in Victory, questioned whether the roads along the designated route could withstand the loads as well. The Victory Town Line bisects Sanford Road past the Welsh residents. This section of road and the right turn onto Popple Road to connect to routes 38 and 104 are not within Sterling's jurisdiction. Therefore, they are not part of the road preservation law, nor are they part of this review.
Is that?
Okay. I should probably read more, I guess. The clerk stated that the town of Victory had been notified as all residents of the project. Brian Soper also stated that he had spoken with the highway department and they were aware of the project. Discussion ensued regarding a hard right turn onto Popple Road and the effect the loaded trucks would have on the road condition in the town of Victory. Brian Soper again stated that he had spoken with the town of Victory representatives and that they were not concerned, as was Brian, who had plowed snow for over 10 years at that intersection. Some neighbors commented that the traffic had already increased because of other businesses in the area in the past 10 years, and the roads hadn't been affected thus far. Steve Keeling, previous property owner, stated that they had used the same route, and although the turn appears tight, it can easily be maneuvered. Mr. Blanchard had other concerns, such as the creek that borders the property along the east-south block. Design standards recommended by the DEC eliminates any potential for contamination. Mr. Blanchard was also concerned about outside hauling contracts and the ability for the project to control other haulers. He stated that Roselli is a hauler for the Onondaga Lake project, and his company is known for non-compliance. Other towns in the area have any complaints filed for noise, dust, speed, and road surface destruction. The neighbor directly across the road, Robin Allinger, questioned what the negative declaration from the DEC involved. CJ Ferlito answered that the DEC had reviewed the project design and found that there would be no negative or adverse effects on the surrounding environment, and that the DEC would be monitoring the progress of the mine through the phases and reevaluating any oversights. The reclamation plan to plant grass and vegetate each phase as it's completed is supported with a bond posted to cover each phase. She also asked about dust control measures. The dust will be controlled by watering the surface areas as needed with water supplied to tanker truck from the pond on site. She also asked what activity would be occurring on the area of property located next to her on the west side of Sanford Road. Mr. Ferlito replied that no activity would be occurring on that portion of the property. In fact, of the 82 acres available, only 36 acres are part of the actual mine. Attorney John Klusik had already presented a written argument in support of the variance request for the board members and proceeded to summarize the main points for the audience present. The variance request pertains to the mine access and its relation to structures within 1,000 feet only. Mining is a use allowed in the ag residential districts with the issuance of special permit according to the land use regulations of Sterling. The mine has existed since 1966 and has had two access points, the north historically for mine access and the south for access to a Christmas tree farm. The use of these existing access points will not change the character of the neighborhood, criteria 1. The proposed control and ingress and egress should increase safety standards relative to traffic negotiating the steep grade on Sanford Road. Established hours of operation with security fencing and gates only further benefit the surrounding community by eliminating the unpredictable previous usage, including illegal waste dumping. Other options for access do not exist on the property that improves the number of residences affected, criteria 2. In fact, other scenarios increase the number of homes affected overall. The request is substantial, criteria 3, for 4 properties and less substantial for the 4 remaining parcels affected, but Mr. Ferlito has attempted to mitigate with separate access points for ingress and egress and negotiation to purchase more property to the north to create an easement to place entrance further north on Sanford Road. The location of the access points for the mine will not cause an adverse impact to the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood, criteria 4, as supported by the negative declaration to be issued by the DEC as lead agency of the coordinated seeker review. The hardship that relief is being sought for is not self-created, criteria 5, in that it arises exclusively from the setback requirements of the town's land use regulations. The state mine land reclamation law supersedes local laws, and permits for mining activity are governed by the DEC, which has authority to establish setbacks for public thoroughfares. In conclusion, the applicant has respectfully requested an area variance from the town in the interest of furthering good relations with both the town and the neighbors. A question regarding the mine operation details prompted Acting Chairman Utes to read aloud from the supplied mine land use plan sections already approved by the DEC concerning contamination of water sources, estimated truck traffic, 5 trucks per hour with a maximum of 10 trucks per hour, in parentheses, dust control, phasing of operations and reclamation efforts with performance bonds, road design, and noise study of acceptable processing equipment scheduled to be on site. Member Dates asked the applicant how they monitor the load rates on each truck. He was answered that scales are on the loader. Member Palmieri commented that the hardship was self-created because he purchased the property to establish a business that doesn't fit the zoning requirements. The attorney disagreed and stated that it's an allowed use. The hardship came with the land that had been utilizing the 2 access points to extract gravel for close to 60 years. Without any further questions from the audience, Acting Chairman Utes closed the hearing at 7:50 p.m. Acting Chairman Utes stated that he was satisfied with the neighbor notification and that those who had concerns and problems had attended and were given opportunity to discuss the issues with the board and the applicant. He also stated that the applicant had appeared to answer issues of dust and noise sufficiently for the DEC to declare a negative declaration. Member Dates commented that the noise levels of the mining activity appeared to be equal to those of farming activities, which are prevalent throughout the community. Without any further comments, a motion was moved by Member Itzen to approve the requested relief of setback requirements regarding access roads and existing residences in connection to a mining excavation operation. The motion was seconded by Member Palmieri. All were in favor, and the motion is carried. That's it. Does that help bring back some memories?
Okay, if you have nothing further to add, I'll go to the next step.
I think we cleared the record on this one.
Is it what?
I think we're all set, thank you.
Okay. All right. What we'll do is close this portion of the meeting.
Do we have to?
Well, we will. Yeah.
Can I take a break?
Would anyone like a small break?
Good.
Have an urgency feeling?
I'm taking a small.
He's gonna, we have to wait.
This when you cue the music.
Do we need to vote on it? Closing this portion. Are they gonna listen to the audience? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right, yeah, the plan, that's gonna be done, I still think it's gonna be done, but probably best done by the plan board. I think, I agree, it's a way, right now.
Yeah, I'm not using this one. I put it in the
and really not much else has changed. So somebody,
I'd have to get back and look at what the original
We have to hear from the public.
yeah, it's gonna have to.
sheet got it, and that's good.
Still have to.
I think it's an area because it's got to do with
You guys are just the final determinant. You're just deciding narrow limits of the traffic.
opposed to use, which would be using it for a purpose for which it wasn't.
Yeah, I understand, okay. But the hardest part to get by is undesirable change in the neighborhood character and or to nearby property. That's the hardest one right there. And normally, anyways, we've got,
What you previously done.
we will change the traffic of that.
We've got this voluminous.
Why didn't we do that the first time?
Because there was nobody here to.
That's
That was interim chairman.
You're better at this than I am, you will be.
Yeah, if you read the DEC, the responses, it's a very thorough job of addressing all those concerns and comments, and
Like this, but you approved it, so therefore it's okay.
And it was unanimous. Nobody on the board, other members did not approve or go along with me.
Right, this thing was originally an area.
I don't think it's very, it seems.
let's go back to
After a while, it gets foggy after a while.
my son's gonna be, you're gonna have
I'm not changed what I was saying 3 times.
let them do it.
The rest of the board in on our conversation. That was great. I want to tell you, man, that was great. Nice break.
Yeah, here's the public first, and have a discussion.
So what are you thinking?
All right, good. We're in together, right?
It'd be nice to make a motion to amend.
Yeah, I think I gave mine to Rich there.
Yeah, he's got it there.
I think we're gonna get stuck with
Yes, thank you.
Okay, oh wait,
You just had the relevant parts about traffic. Yeah, I read.
all right.